So entertainment is always a means to an end. It's used. The entertainment industry is always used to facilitate deals. And so PDiddy is low. He is like one of the, what I like to call them, regional managers, of the entertainment. And he's already been replaced probably.
Wow.
So the question is, why did he lose his protection? He lost his protection for a reason, right?
Welcome back to Going Rogue with Lara Logan. Our guest today is somebody who is very special to me. Her name is Ilonka Deaton, and she is an extraordinary woman who is from my native South Africa and who is also an artist, a singer and a speaker and a very vocal voice in the counter-trafficking movement because Ilonka herself was trafficked when she was very young. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce her.
Thank you, Laura. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you. I'm very humbled.
Thank you for coming all this way. We didn't know each other back home in South Africa.
No. If we did, we would have had a lot of fun.
Yes, we would have. Okay, so, but Ilonka, from the time I first met you and heard your story, I was just... I was blown away in lots of different ways. One, because you are, as a survivor of sex trafficking,
yes,
you are a very powerful person in your own right.
Well, thank you. I have to give God all the glory for that one. but I must say, you were a very big influential part in me speaking up and speaking out. If I can share the story, the very first time I met you, you were on my brother's podcast on The Bottom Line.
Yes, your brother Jaco Boyens, who is very active in counter-trafficking.
Very active. And you had just finished, and there was a conference room, and you saw me and motioned to me and said, "Are you Jaco's sister?" And I said, "Yes." And you walked up to me and you got right in my face, and you said, "You have to speak for yourself. You've got to speak for yourself and share your story."
Because I learned about your story from Jaco, and then I saw an interview, a little bit of you in the film that he did.
Yes,
and it was so powerful because the story of what happened to you is one thing, and that's extraordinary on many levels. But then it's just that you are so grounded, and that when I think, obviously, I don't think of myself as a survivor, even though I am really not of trafficking, but of gang rape. And I've dealt with so many people over the years who come to me and they take strength from my strength. And so, often when we think about survivors, I feel for survivors of sex trafficking, because very often they're overlooked or dismissed or disregarded, or it's like, they're treated as if, she's
or seen that they prostituted themselves, or
people just don't believe them.
Right.
Or they treat them as if they're damaged somehow. Right. But you, in spite of everything, and I know that, and we'll get into that now in a moment, but in spite of everything that you've been through and all the scars and wounds that you have endured, you don't have that sense about you of being damaged.
Right. And that's my whole goal, is for other victims of not just sex trafficking, but any form of abuse, whether it was deciding to have an abortion or having a parent who abused you, that you, or even if it's just making a decision to date the wrong person and feeling that guilt and shame, that there's a life of hope far beyond any bad decision you could have made or anything that could have happened to you, and that you can have a completely redeemed, free, holistic life going forward, without PTSD and without anxiety and without depression.
Yes.
And I praise God that I am part of the 1% of survivors like you that can walk this journey out. But there are many, many other survivors who don't have that confidence yet. And I think when we share our stories, just like when you came up to me that day and you said that, it gave me permission, right? Because you're a strong woman who speaks up for herself, right?
Yeah.
So if I stand up and speak up for myself, someone else who's a victim will do the same thing. And that is how, in my opinion, how the Holy Spirit works, is He entices others to stand up and speak up and take charge of their own lives and what has happened to them, and to say, even though I don't have everything figured out right now, there is a way forward, because look at Lara, look at Ilonka, they've done it, so I can do it, so we give them permission. I think it's very, very, very important.
Okay, so let's help people understand your story then. I know born and raised in South Africa.
Yes.
How old are you now?
I am 43.
Oh, so I'm 53. I've got 10 years on you. And you had your brother and your mom and dad.
Yeah. So my parents went through a divorce when I was 13 months old. Ooh. My dad was a pilot in the South African Air Force and became a first functioning alcoholic and then a dysfunctional alcoholic.
Yes, as often happens.
Goodness. And my mom just didn't want us to be raised in an alcoholic home. She was a language professor and just raised us by herself. So Yaku is 6 years older than me. Then we have a brother that's 13 months older than me, and then me. So I was the baby of the family. And loving mom, my mom is absolutely my hero. She's always the can-do voice in my head that says, don't tell me there's something you can do, can't die when you push the wheelbarrow, the South African saying.
Yeah.
You don't tell me you can't do it. Reach for the stars, go for your dreams, and pursue. But there was a hole in our family because dad wasn't around. And my dad wasn't, he wasn't an abusive dad, he just wasn't there. So it left a gaping hole of abandonment, for all three of us. And Yaku kind of had to step into a parenting role when my mom had to work. Because he was the oldest boy. Yes. And South Africa, if you don't work, you don't eat. And if you don't pay your bills, there's no safety net or social services works or anything like that, or a food bank. You really have to work. So mom at times had to have three jobs, to keep food on the table.
But you were always very talented.
Yes, all three of us have different talents. But for me, it was singing. And I just wanted to sing. Since I was born, I just wanted to sing. And singing was a place where I could escape what I felt by not having a dad. And I really love hearing people sing songs. I would just sing any song that people would like, just to hear them sing back at me. I have so much joy doing that. So at 12, we moved into a new neighborhood, and I made a neighborhood friend, a girl that was my age. Yeah. And she had a kind of a stepdad in her life that was getting ready to marry her mom, right? Which fast forward ended up being my music manager. And he was in the music industry, and she said, well, why don't you come to my house and come, learn about some more music, and my soon-to-be stepdad is in music, and you should really talk to him, and just come to my house, and we'll sing Def Leppard, and, we'll write the lyrics down and record, on cassette tapes. And I was so in love with music that I wanted to know more, and she was someone my age, but I didn't know at the time that she was actually recruiting kids in the neighborhood for this particular manager who ended up becoming
and she was your age.
Me. Just my age, yeah. Now, I only found out later that she too was in the same trafficking ring that I was in, that he had been abusing her for many years.
Her stepfather.
Prior to me meeting her. And I met him, super nice guy, father figure, got his life together, music manager, well-respected person in the industry, lots of connections, and loves to help young people reach their dreams. And he invited me to a singing competition that was to the liking of like American Idol, but way before American Idol ever existed. And I went through all of the rounds, and I ended up winning this competition, singing Whitney Houston's "The Greatest Love of All." And I was so happy. I won 50 Rand, which was a lot of money for me then. And
50 Rand, which is about $4 or $5.
Yes. And I signed my first record deal.
Wow.
And I was off to the races with what is it like being an artist, making a first album, finding songs that I can sing the original, getting new hairstyles, everything of the industry.
And this is, this is a long time ago.
Yeah, I was 12.
This is not like the days of social media today.
No.
Where you can produce your own music. You know
we're
what
talking
I mean?
1994.
Getting a record contract in those days was absolutely huge.
Yes, it was. It absolutely was. And then in South Africa too, as you know, when you sign a record contract, you also sign performance agreements with conglomerates like entertainment companies. Like here we have Live Nations, for instance, who's going to promote all of your works. In South Africa, you have entertainment companies who own a lot of casinos, big estate casinos.
Kind of like getting a gig in Las Vegas.
That's correct, right. So you not only sign a contract with a record company, but you also signed one with a promoting company and with an entertainment company, right?
Wow.
Who's going to make sure that you're touring and you're making money and all that. So the first 6 months was amazing. I learned so much. And this guy, this manager, and to give you perspective, my mom is in her 70s and he was a little bit older than my mom, to how old he is now. And he was a father figure to me. And I learned so much about the music industry, and I loved every bit of it. But I did not know that he was grooming me. But not only me, he was grooming my mom and my family, because they earn your trust. I mean, they earn your trust on a visceral level, to where you would trust your children with them. They are good people. They have a good reputation. They have great references, you name it.
Because this means that when you're touring and performing, you're going away with them.
Yes.
So they're taking, I mean, I couldn't imagine. I'm not going to let my 12-year-old daughter go off with some strange guy.
And my mom didn't either. And I'll tell you how this happened. So mom would take me to rehearsals. She would take me to photo shoots. She would take me to the studio, to the writing sessions, all of that. And it was almost to date a year since I won the competition that my mom could not. She had 3 jobs at the time.
Yeah.
And she said, Jaco cannot take you. He's going to visit a university. He can't take you. Your manager's going to pick you up. And she felt comfortable with that.
Yeah, because it's
we'd
been a
known
year
him
now.
For a year, yes. Now, mind you, his children were my friends.
Yeah.
Like his biological kids were my friends, not the new wife that he married. That's plus. And he picked me up and drove me to rehearsal space, where we were going to rehearse. But Lara, I knew when I got in the car that something was wrong.
How?
Intuition. When someone decides to do something evil towards you or against you, you feel it. There's an energy that you can just feel. Now, in my young mind, I couldn't tell you what he was going to do, but I knew something was different. And I try to teach my daughter and young girls, if you feel uncomfortable and you feel that intuition, you must trust it. Even if you don't know the answer of why you feel that way, just trust it and walk away. And I asked him to take me home. I said, I want to go home. I don't want to do this today. I want to go home. And he said, no, we have this very big New Year's thing coming up, and you have to rehearse for this, and everybody's waiting for you, and we have to go and do this. And at the rehearsal space, when we got there, we were the only people there. And he locked the door behind me. That was the first time, but no one else was there. And I knew, now this is a kind of a warehouse space where we would rehearse, right? So think industrial doors, industrial gates. And I knew something bad was wrong. And he looked at me and he started saying to me, you know how special you are, right? And
creepy.
I thought this is, yes, it makes your skin crawl. And then he turned into a extremely violent person.
Are you serious?
Yes.
What did he do?
Violent, brutally raped me. Wow. Silenced my mouth. I couldn't breathe at one point. I'd never, ever want to go through that. But you know what was even scarier than that? Is when he became silent. While he was raping me, he became really silent. And that was the first time that I was in the midst of when evil became silent. And when you are face to face with Satan. When you are face to face with the evil of the spirit that leads men to do that. Because it's not them. There's a spirit attached to that, Lara. And I knew that I was dealing with an entity way more powerful than me. And I knew that even though I fought as a 12-year-old, now he was much larger than me, there was no way for me physically to escape what he was doing. When it was done, I was just glad that it was done and begged to go to the bathroom because I immediately felt like somebody had poured like mud over my skin. Like you feel dirty. You just feel so dirty. And I was crying, went to the bathroom. I started washing my hands, and wiping tears off of my face. And when I tried to come out of the bathroom, he was waiting at the bathroom door for me. And he said, now we're going to talk. And then he proceeded to threaten to kill my mom in front of me. And to kill Jaco. And to kill my brother Bjorn. If I said one word. And if I wanted to have a career in South Africa, if I wanted to ever sing again, I would not utter a single word about this. I would go home. He's going to take me home. I would go home and I would be quiet about it. And then in a week, we will talk again. And he reminded me of that thread, driving me all the way home. I cried the entire way. When I got home, Mom was there, her car was there. And I thought, what am I going to do? I can't let him kill my mom. I mean, I can't do that. I don't have a dad. My mom was my only lifeline. And I made an instant decision right there. No one asked me to do this, that I would not say one word. I would be silent.
Anyone who knows me knows I'm pretty particular about the information that I put out there, which means I really only want to bring you information about products from people that I truly believe in. So that means the best products put out by the very best people. And for me, when it comes to nutrition and health, I love what Ascent Nutrition is doing because I know that they are not going to settle for anything less than the best, and that they really are on a mission to make health accessible to as many people as they can. And how do they do that? Well, for them, it's really important to source organic and wild harvested products that they put a lot of work into finding from some of the cleanest places on earth. Two of the products that I'm really familiar with are the pine needle extract, which actually tastes better than you think, and humic and fulvic acid, which is what I take every day. Both incredibly important for this moment with everything we've been through with COVID, and as we learn more and more about why healthy detoxing is important for gut health and brain function. I also love organic lion's mane and agarikon mushroom powders. The South African me likes the lion's mane part. These can also be good for your pets, your cats and dogs, and no shortage of cats and dogs around this podcast. And if you're a coffee drinker, which I am, they have an organic mold and mycotoxin-free coffee, which is pretty amazing. I actually love the taste of it. I do remember the first time I had their coffee. It was a freezing cold day and was full of rain, and I was very happy to get that hot steaming cup of coffee, which is where I had the pleasure of meeting the founder of Ascent Nutrition, who is a great guy, Lance Shuttler. And what I appreciate about Lance is how aware he is of the bigger picture that's been going on in the world over the last few years, and how he has created these products with that in mind, and how important it is to him to try to protect us from the many different toxins that we've been exposed to. If you want to find out more about what Ascent Nutrition is doing, you can go to goascentnutrition.com/Lara. That's goascentnutrition.com/Lara. I really do want to say a very genuine thank you to Lance for supporting our podcast, for being willing to go rogue with Lara Logan and my team, and for being a supporter of our work. The only question I have is, Lance is willing to go rogue. Are you?
Do you know that every single predator knows that if they threaten a loved one, after the act of a violent rape or crime like that, the child will be silent?
Really?
Because they break your spirit. They have to break your spirit first. And then they've got to threaten you so that you will be silent. And then over a few months or few weeks, they can get control over you, right? So I went in the house, ran to the bathroom and locked the door. And my mom came to the door and she said, "Why is this door locked?" Because I was 12. I had a very good relationship with my mom, but I hid. It reminds me of like Adam and Eve hiding in the garden. I hid from her because I couldn't explain this. I couldn't explain why I was bleeding because I hadn't started my period. I'm bleeding. How am I going to explain that to her? I don't want to explain this to her. He's going to kill her if I say a word because she will definitely call the authorities. And then I'm going to be in trouble. And then my family, what am I going to do? This can't happen.
It's too much for a child.
Oh, the weight of it.
The weight of it.
Yeah.
It's too much to think about your family's well-being, the enormity of it, right?
Lara, I thought hit puberty. I had not really even understood at 12 years old what sex is.
My God.
Why would I know? I didn't have a dad in the house. My mom, they didn't be behind locked doors. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't something that was in my purview. That wasn't part of my daily life.
Did you feel guilt and shame?
Not at first, no. Guilt came later for me, and I'll explain to you why. But at first, it was just tremendous. It was just the tremendous weight of, and the violence of that I could have been killed, and feeling extremely dirty. I mean, I scrubbed my skin for weeks to the point that I looked like I had carpet burns on my arms, because you're trying to wash like his sweat off of you. Like, you don't want that.
And you can't.
And the smell. I mean, there's still smells that I will smell that will remind me of that moment, that will make me want to throw up. Because your body remembers it, right? So after that moment happened, my mom that very next week called the youth pastor and said, "You got to come talk to Ilonka. Something's wrong. Something is really wrong with her. She's not talking. She's become very isolated. She's just not opening up, and something happened."
She's not herself.
She called the music manager. He said, "No, she was fine. We rehearsed and everything was great. We didn't sing one song. Everything was fine, and she's let me talk to her." Then my mom would go, "Hi, he wants to talk to you." Then I would take the phone, and he would say to me, "Are you ready to be a good girl?" Then I would go, "Yes, sir." Give the phone back. Because remember what we will do to your mom, right? Now, then it was just a threat. Later, because I was trafficked for almost 6 years, later I really saw what they do to girls. That threat that they make, it's not an empty threat. And this is not to scare anybody. It's just to show how evil these people are, and that they don't play around. I mean, they will do anything to protect what they've built, and the rings that they've established, and their power and their authority. They're not going to want anybody to be a whistleblower in their operations or their organization.
They don't want anybody surviving it and going to tell people.
Absolutely not. No. They would rather you die in it.
Sure.
Blame it on drugs.
Yeah.
Right? And you be out of it.
Yeah.
Or keep you in that life forever. And then in return, you becoming a recruiter for them and a madam.
Of course, because that's how you get out of being raped.
Correct. As you allow other girls to be raped.
Yes. And you'll do anything to make it stop.
Correct. Yes. So 3 months from the first assault to the next one was about 3 months when he raped me again.
Did you keep rehearsing? Were you around him again?
Oh yeah.
And he didn't do anything?
No. Just be good. You're gonna have a career. You'll do great. We're gonna have a great career.
So
for
you almost think that it's done,
right?
Like you don't really think it's going to happen again and again.
Yes. Like, you're gonna have a great career. We have this. Keep our little secret.
Yeah.
We have got this new contract for you, and we got this clothing endorsement for you, and look at this diamond ring that got sponsored for you that you're going to wear at shows. I mean, just keep our little secret. We're going to be fine. And then the second rape happened, which that wasn't even at a warehouse space. He just pulled the car over in an alley.
So he was driving you to a rehearsal again?
Yes. Because now my mom trusts him, right?
Yeah.
Because he took me, everything was fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And then that just turned into, he was the main, and then it became a weekly thing. And he was the main person who would first assault me. And when you go through that constant series of being raped, you disconnect with your body. You disassociate with your body, and you just survive the moment. So there's no physical response from you. You're just a body that's there, and that's the only way that you can survive that, right?
Yes. Yes. I remember when my mother died, it was like that. I had to disassociate from my body. I couldn't be physically present in the moment because the agony. The pain was just unbearable.
Yeah. And how does your brain make sense of this?
Yeah, it's like I remember driving behind the hearse to the graveyard where she was going to be cremated, and thinking, I'm following my mother's body to go and watch her burn. Like, it's just you have to disassociate because you just can't be. It's too much to be present in that moment.
Well, God
you can't
didn't make
bear
us
it
for that, Lara. There is no compartment in our brains that God made for suffering like this, that he made for death, that he made for rape. It's not there. But there is a mechanism for us to disassociate, for us to go into a survival mode, Praise God, because I don't think we would survive the things that we have survived if that wasn't in there, right?
But the one thing I want to understand from you is, for me, it was so chaotic because it was a mob, and there were so many men and I was being beaten and, everything at the same time. It was so violent. But when
So sorry that happened to you.
No, it's okay. I just remember though that when there was a moment when I knew that I had a chance to live, that was the moment when the fear really set in, and I couldn't bear the thought of going back because I was just a hand away from being dragged back into the mob. For me, when I listen to you and I think about the fact that you would go again and again and again, you be away from him and then you walk back into it. How did you do that?
By disassociating, by not being who you are, by losing your identity as a person.
Because you knew, right? At a certain point when he was doing it all the time.
Oh, that it was I was expecting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, after about the third time, I was expecting that this was going to happen. But make no mistake, the threats didn't stop. And then he would share stories with me we know this, I have this other artist that I'm managing and she spoke up, and I paid a visit to her mom in the middle of the night, with a 9mm weapon.
Yeah.
And so make no mistake, and she's back in line. She's a good girl, and you'll meet her soon. You'll meet her soon.
Yes.
And it was almost about a year into this whole ordeal that when I got to meet some of the other girls that were in this trafficking ring with me. And it was at a very prestigious event place in South Africa. And we were all invited to go to the greenhouse as like the green room was the penthouse, sorry. The penthouse was the green room for everybody, for all the artists. And these were all artists. Some of them were models. Some of them were groups, duo groups, band, and then individual artists. And I was not the youngest one there.
You were 12 and you were not the youngest.
So I was 13 at this point. Yeah, I was not the youngest. Yeah, so there was a 9-year-old girl.
No. No, Ilonka.
And Lara, we're not talking about, this is not the slums in the ghetto. This is extremely wealthy, penthouse suite, men who have established themselves as financial moguls, as big corporate owners, as CEOs of companies, of entertainment companies, heads of record companies, A&R folks, marketing, you name it. Anything in the industry were there, including up-and-coming artists or people that they want to sign, you name it. But every single one of those adult men had been corrupted to partake in this trafficking ring. And then they would just cherry pick, or they would assign you a number and draw it out of a hat.
Are you serious?
Yes.
So, okay, wait. You have to take me through that. So you would go to events. Would it be an event?
Yes, so you'd be booked to sing. I have a 2-hour concert that I will be doing that will be split up into 30-minute segments. 2 of those will be mine. It's shared with other artists. You have this many songs that you've rehearsed. Here's the whole concert, but all of the artists together make up like a 3-hour show, right?
Yeah.
So everybody has their parts that they're going to do. So you're a group together that is performing at this event. Mom comes with you. He says, hey, listen, you guys go and enjoy. We have this whole spread for all of the parents that are here. Go eat your food. We're going to take all the artists for a quick photo shoot upstairs. We've got a green room for them. Come upstairs. All the artists go up. All the managers goes up. A&R photographers, you name it, goes into this room. And then very quickly, that room is sucked dry and only left with the people who are there to have sex with kids. And the photographers leave, the makeup artists leave, but they all know what's going on.
I mean, I can't believe it.
It doesn't take 3 hours. It takes 30 minutes.
Are you serious?
They will pick a child, they will have sex, and you'll be on stage in 45 minutes. Over and over and over again.
Ilonka, I can't believe it.
And then they will assign you a nickname. Which, to be honest with you, and this is going to sound really bad, when they gave me my nickname,
Yeah.
it kind of helped me.
Oh, no, I know why it helped you.
Because now I wasn't Ilonka anymore.
No, you had a new identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, she was doing this.
Yes.
And then guilt set in because then now it's, now I'm allowing this. And look at these young girls. And now I'm allowing it.
You know how incredible it is what you say there, because I've done a lot of work with child soldiers and, Islamic Caliphate and Cubs of the Caliphate and all the rest of it. And when I was with Joseph Kony's, some of his child soldiers in Uganda and Central African Republic, one of the things that they told me about, I spoke to some boys, 3 boys who had escaped or been rescued. And one of the things that they told me about was how, first you would be kidnapped from your villages, from your parents, from your families. And of course, they make you do these terrible things that, like if a child escapes, if it's a brother or a sister or whatever, then they make the kids, if they catch that person, they make the kids kill them, right? That other child.
Yes,
and they'll make them bite them to death with their teeth. So they'll tear off the flesh with their teeth, this kind of thing, right? But what they do is once you've done you've been involved in a number of different things and they know that you're ready, then Joseph Kony, the head of the army, will hold a ceremony. And in that ceremony, what will he do? You'll be given a new name. So you're essentially given a new identity. And what that does is for these kids, they cannot reconcile what they've done and who they've become with who they were. So the purpose of giving you this new identity, they all said, once you have your new identity, now you settle into the role. Yeah. Because as the more you hurt, the more you kill, the more you rape, and all the rest of it, the higher you rise. So you're being recognized and rewarded in this system. Yes. You become more powerful. Yep. Of course, this is like the girls who become
Same in the entertainment industry.
recruiters.
The more you participate, the bigger gigs you get, the more money you make. I mean, as a 14-year-old, I would make, back then there was a lot of money, anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 rand for singing 3 songs. That's not because of my talent. And I didn't keep all that, by the way, because they take the majority of it.
And, it's the same thing with transgenderism. It's the dead naming, that whole thing that person you were becomes dead and you get this new identity.
You're a new person. What does that remind you of? Yeah. It reminds you of the Bible when God says you lay the old down, you become a new person when you surrender your life to Christ.
Being reborn.
Yes. Where he says nothing of your past I will recognize. I do not look at anything that you have done or any of your sin. I'm going to look at you as a new creation in Christ, right? So it's the enemy taking a biblical principle and he's inserting it into a very evil trafficking, and like the boys of Burma, like these boys, and just twisting it a little bit. It's still truth, but they're twisting it a little bit and making it their own new truth instead of what it's supposed to be. But it helped me survive, all of that.
So you were essentially raped constantly for almost 6 years.
Yeah, so now in my mind, when I think of being raped, my mind goes to the first 3-4 offenses of when it happened. Then my mind would shift to what I allowed. I made a decision to allow that, to keep my mom safe, to keep my brother safe, and to go along with it. Now, was I participating in it in a pleasurable way? No, because these were adult men and I was 12 and 13 and 14 and 15. The longer it went on, the more I saw of what they would do to girls who would speak out. One girl's body was brutally mutilated because she would sweat on a very well-known
She
CEO.
would sweat?
She would sweat when he would, have sex with her. And so
he didn't like that?
No, so he had her sweat glands removed, which mutilated her body. Convinced her parents to do it, which mutilated her body because you can't do that. Your body naturally wants to sweat, right? And she still struggles with that.
She survived?
Yes. Yeah.
You still talk to her?
I don't talk to her very often because she's not where I am in my healing. which is very difficult for her. PTSD is different for people. Some people heal to a place where I am and you are, to where we can openly talk about it, and some people want to forget it and never go back to any of that.
I can't believe that. Had her sweat glands removed.
Yeah, some of them have committed suicide since then. At least 3 that I know of have committed suicide because the weight of it is too much. And, South Africa is a secret society. South Africa is not like America where we celebrate hardship, and if someone goes through recovery, that we celebrate their recovery and the underdog. We like the underdog in America. That's not in South Africa. It's survival of the fittest. You pull yourself up with your bootstraps. Mm-hmm. You don't share your dirty laundry in public, and you move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't let the grass grow under your feet. Go make something of your life, right? And so, but that mentality is something, unfortunately, that a lot of girls cannot carry the weight of that they can't carry. And often suicide is an option. And I understand that because at 25, I attempted suicide because of the same reason. So I get that.
I want to talk about that, but I just need your help in understanding this. I'm still trying to imagine these events. You've got, would you be raped before you went out on stage?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes minutes before.
Minutes before?
Yeah, depending on where the ratio was from the green room to the stage, right? So if you had a green room that was literally adjacent to the stage, I could be raped right there, and then they would announce my name 10 minutes later and I have to go on stage.
And while your parents are at the event?
Sitting in the audience. Yaku's sitting, not even 30 feet from me, around the corner. Them thinking that I went this way to go and get on stage, and they would have somebody waiting for me who they made a deal with. And it could be things like, hey, this person is giving us mineral rights to a mine. That the CEO who you signed the agreement with this entertainment company has made a trade deal with. So you're his gift tonight.
You're his gift.
Yeah. You never present it as a whore or a slut, or they will name you that if you go against them. If you start bucking the system, they will do name calling, or like the first offenses that are very brutal and very violent. But later on, you are not. You're a gift to them. It's always you're a gift to them. You're a present to them. You're somebody very special to them that they're going to see tonight. You're like a jewel to them. You're going to be their jewel tonight. Okay? Don't ask names. Don't ask questions. Some you're not allowed to look them in the eye. Some want to talk to you. Some you're allowed to talk to. Some want to know what kind of bunnies and stuffed animals you like. I mean, it's weird, Lara. It's very strange. Because these are sick men that have fetishes to have sex with kids, and some of them want to know innocent things, and some want to have girls that look like boys because they're really pedophiles and they want to have sex with boys, and some of them want to have girls that are a little bit more chunky, or have more protruding facial expressions, or you have to say certain things to them while they're raping you. Sick.
I'm just absolutely stunned that this can be so quick, that it can be going on over 3 hours while there's a concert happening, that this whole audience is out there watching this concert, and they have absolutely no idea.
But I want you to see how well orchestrated it is.
Yes.
Think about the logistics of this, okay?
Yes.
You have more than 9 kids under 18 that's performing. You have all of their parents that have chaperoned them, okay? All of them are dressed to the nines. In South Africa, we really dress to go on stage. All of them are dressed to go on stage, right? So the optics of how calculated the logistics of that is. Do you know how many people are involved to pull that off?
A lot.
Who are not going to say things, whose silence have been bought. It's rings of people.
I just can't believe that they can keep it so quiet.
Well, they don't always keep it quiet. Like a maid spoke out once and said, "This is wrong, and I'm going to call the police," and she was strangled. I mean, they don't play, Lara. They don't care if they kill you, kill your family. They will protect what they've built at any cost, because this goes way back to a very old mentality and thinking of. There are individuals that believe that there should not be an age of consent at all, right? Like NAMBLA. We should get rid of the age of consent, period. And kids are sexual from birth, like Kingsley believed and like Hugh Hefner believed. kids should be able to have sex with men, women, whoever they want to, and it should just be a free-for-all.
Yeah, the UN just came up with the sexual rights of the child. They have a charter for the sexual rights of the child, the United Nations.
Which was table, I don't know if you've seen Table 34 from Alfred Kinsey in his book, The Sexual Revolution of a Man. That is him taking notes from a pedophile, raping a child, and saying that child was sexual from birth.
It's just, I know you mentioned NAMBLA, that's the North American Man-Boy Love Association, that's been around since the 70s. It's just, on the one hand, I mean, this is not my first rodeo. It's not like I'm new to the subject. But on the other hand, it's like you almost can't even process that I understand that evil people exist or that there are damaged people, but to have ordinary people that actually just believe, like a Kinsey, that actually just believe that a child is sexual from birth.
Right. It's because he was a pedophile himself.
This is just, this is absolute, on one level, it's just absolute and utter sheer insanity.
Yeah. And we think that it is always done in secret. But it's not. Because if you and I feel the same on a moral issue, we're two people. If we can get someone else here to feel the same as us, it's three. And that's how they build their organizations and their groups, right? It's a mentality. It's a mindset. It's a very faulty, very sick mindset, but it is a mindset. And a lot of wives go along with this. It's not always that the wives don't know. In some aspects, it is the wives that are the ones that want this. You know, that either want to be swingers and they themselves have a tendency to want younger boys under 18. It's sick, Lara. It's very sick, but it's a very damaging thing because it destroys the human spirit. It makes you feel unvalued, that no one is going to be able to love you in life. Because how is a girl like me supposed to go on and get married and then explain that?
But how is a girl like you supposed to want to have sex with anyone?
Right.
Like, I mean, what did you do about that?
Again in your life.
Yes, because
I didn't
you were
want to
a
have
child.
sex with anybody. Right.
Like,
so at almost 18 years old, there was a moment, there was a very clear defining moment in my trafficking story. Manager wanted to have sex with me again. Now,
the same manager.
Same manager. So when I started being introduced to all these other men from like CEOs and from record companies, and they would have sex with me, my manager didn't have sex with me as much, right? Because I was now traded out to, and they would make deals, money deals and, entertainment deals and touring deals. And then I would be the gift, right? To make the trade. So he didn't have sex with me as much, but I hated him. Like I couldn't stand him because he was the only one that was that violent with me. None of the other men were violent like that. They rape you, but they're not, at least with me, it wasn't violent, right? He was violent. He pulled part of my hair out. I mean, he was very, very, very violent. And I hated him, like to my core, I hated him. But I also knew that he was my protection within the trafficking ring. So try to wrap your head around that, Stockholm Syndrome.
It's awful.
Like, I hate you, but you're also the person that's going to make sure that if any of these men, because there are rules, right?
Yeah.
If they pimp you, there's rules. They're not allowed to do certain things with you. And if they step out of line, then there are security guards and bouncers that take care of them.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so they protect you, but they sell you.
Unbelievable.
Your brain can't.
Yeah.
You protect me, but you sell.
Yeah.
You rape me, but you sell me, but you protect
so
me.
you
your
need
brain.
them.
Yes.
You need them because all these other men are unknowns.
Right. But you hate him too.
But you hate them too because of what they're doing to you.
Right.
But okay, so this is maybe a crazy question, but I'm just trying to get my head around, what do you do? Like, how do you react to them?
To these men?
Yeah.
You do as you're told. Like, if it is that they want you to repeat a certain phrase, you're so strong, for instance. You're such a strong man. You're such a strong man. You're such a strong man. But you built an ego. And then they will tell you what position they want you to be in, and then he'll rape you. And you'll repeat the phrase and just close
and
your
you
eyes
can't
and pray to
scream,
God that
you can't do anything.
What's that going to do? This is number 50, 60, 70. What's that going to do if you scream?
Is it harder to be silent or to have to participate?
The way that I did, I just, whatever they told me to do, I did, or whatever they needed me to say, I would say. And then for the rest of it, I would just be quiet. Because I didn't feel that I could fight. What am I going to fight? I'm going to fight him, and then he's going to kill my mom.
Unbelievable.
I so wish that I never would have believed that lie. Because if I had spoken up that very, very, very first day, Lara, that's my biggest regret. If I had said something that very first day, none of the rest would have happened.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
My mom she's a protector, Lara.
They could have killed your mom.
But he could have been arrested too.
But you don't know?
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't go back in time. And you were 12. I mean, you're just a child.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a heavy, unfortunate reality to carry.
There's so many people carrying that reality. That's the incredible part. You know, you look at the scale of trafficking today, and all of these industries and in all of those evil people that you said, you know, they find each other. Now they find each other all over the world through technology.
It's not a localized trafficking. In South Africa touches America.
Yeah.
America's trafficking touches South Africa, touches Dubai.
Yeah.
I was almost sold to Dubai twice in the scheme of these entertainment companies. These are global entertainment companies. They're not just localized in South Africa.
Did you girls, and were there boys too? Or was it all girls?
I was just with girls. I never had mine was just girls.
But did you talk to each other?
Yes, we knew each other very well.
And so did you share?
Because we all moved together.
Yeah, I see.
So once they have a group together that works well, they would book you together to do shows.
And so, and this child that was 9? Did you talk to?
You know, she was the shortest lived child that I saw, and I have no idea what happened to her. I don't know what happened to her. I saw her maybe for a span of, 5-6 months or something at events, and then she just disappeared out of the group. Wow. It could be from, I can only imagine the trauma to her body. You know, I don't know how you hide trauma like that with a 9-year-old child, how you can do that. That's not, because I know what I felt like and what physically my body felt like. I don't see how that goes beyond my brain even trying to understand.
And would they keep you afterwards?
The physical trauma. So if it was, it's always, mainly it was at events, right? Parties before events or parties after events. So, and then you would go sing and my mom would be there and Jaco would be there. Jaco was at most of all my performances because my mom heavily relied on him sometimes to drive me or bring me back or stay or, you know, depending on her work schedule. And then you would go home. I was never trafficked. I want people to understand this. I was never trafficked across a border. I was raped and sent home. But they bought my silence through fear.
Unbelievable.
And that is the reality of trafficking in America. This is how you can have your next door neighbor be in a trafficking ring, but she's your next door neighbor every day, and you see her. My friends at school had no idea. They thought I was living the life. You're singing, and you were just on the radio this morning, and we all heard you.
You're famous.
This is so cool. You're getting to do all this stuff, and you have this secret that is bigger than a house that is like looming over you, and you're like, I'm only Ilonka at school. I'm not Ilonka with them.
What was your nickname?
It was Cookie Shoes.
I was Cookie Shoes.
Yep, that was my nickname. Or they would just call me Cookie for short. But.
And your mother and Jaco didn't notice?
Mom knew that something was wrong with me. I mean, she took me to psychiatrists, to therapists. She had me put on sleep therapy for a week to figure out. And I had multiple psychiatrists sitting to me saying, just talk to us. And I would just sit there in silence. I go, there is no way that I am uttering a word of this to you.
So then what happened?
Because what could happen in my family? So there was this moment where this manager who actually had gotten jealous of these other men having sex with me, and he wanted to have sex with me, right? And it was before my 18th birthday, and I fought. I just thought, if I die today, so help me God, if I die today, I'll die today. Today, you will not touch me. You will not touch me. I had a very, very expensive nightgown on with the straps were filled with jewels, you know, and my hair and makeup was done, everything. And he grabbed my dress when I said no, and he ripped the dress, right? Which you can imagine jewels went everywhere. And then he grabbed my hair and flung me to the ground and started dragging me by my hair. And I just fought. I fought, kicked, screamed, scratched, you know, just fighting back, like really, 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 really fighting back. And
now you're almost 18. You're not 12 anymore.
Correct. I'm stronger. You know, I'm more to his height. And the door opened up, and an off-duty police officer who was moonlighting as a security guard, new person there at this casino, knocked on my door to tell me that they were running a little bit ahead on schedule, and he needed me to go on stage, that they were ready for me to start the show.
Wow.
And he walked into my nose bleeding, you know, my lip bleeding, and me on the floor, and there's jewels everywhere, and I am, you know, half naked, and this guy is dragging me and beating me. And he intervened, just what any cop would do if he saw an event like that, because I was still a minor. And he got him off of me. Then the two of them got into a fist fight.
Wow.
And the ex-manager broke free and ran out of the green room, the dressing room, and the police officer pursued him, and he got off the premises. And I've never seen him since that day.
Ilonka, this is like a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, this is literally like a movie.
Yeah.
You can't believe it.
You can't make this stuff up. It's yeah.
This is why they say life is stranger than fiction.
Yes. If people will tell the truth, really
if people will tell the truth.
Yeah. And so I got myself together and didn't know what was, you know, I didn't perform that night. I wouldn't do it. I just wanted to go home, you know.
Yes.
And then I can remember being in the parking lot with all of my gear, because I had a ton of equipment always with me. And I thought, I can't go home. What am I going to tell my mom? What am I going to say? Look at me, I'm bleeding. How am I going to, I can't say I fell. You know, I've got scratch marks all over me. You know, and I was heavily smoking at the time. I smelled like smoke. I don't want to be here. But I had a hotel room the night at this hotel. And I thought, well, I'm going to stay. So I stayed. And then the next morning, I called a taxi. Now, can you imagine this? Like, for my 18th birthday. And I had thousands of rand with me because I got paid. He wasn't there, so they gave me the money. And I thought, I'm just not going to go home. So I asked a taxi driver, left all my gear, made an arrangement for them to keep my gear. And I took a taxi to a coffee shop. I said, just take me to the closest coffee shop in this area. Do you remember Secunda? Mm-hmm. I was in Secunda.
That's a remote area.
Yep.
There's almost nothing there.
It's almost 200 miles away from my home. And I said, take me to a close coffee shop, please. And they said, well, there's no coffee shop, you know, because coffee shops wasn't a thing back then.
No.
But there's a restaurant. And so I went to the restaurant. And remember, they used to have like poster boards in restaurants where you can like put your business card or something. Mm-hmm. And there was an ad for a couple who was renting a room. And so I called them and said that I was 18, that I had recently gotten a job in this town, and that I needed a place to stay, and that I have money. And I said, but I need somebody to pick me up, please. And the wife came and she picked me up, and I went and lived in their house.
I can't believe it.
Broke all contact with my mom.
Did you just disappear?
just disappeared, ran away. For almost a year, for a long time.
How long?
For almost a year, it's a long time.
Almost a year.
Yeah.
They had no idea where you were. And that was when your brother Jaco was looking for you.
They knew my last location was in Secunda.
Wow.
And then Mom started looking for me. And then calling places. And somebody recognized me. And then she called Jaco because Jaco was in college. Jaco was an avid rugby player. He was on his way to play for Transvaal.
Yeah, which is one of the biggest rugby states in South Africa, yeah.
Extremely talented rugby player.
It would be like playing, on your way to play NFL football in this country.
But in the meantime, I went back to the entertainment buyers who I knew, called them and said, I don't know what happened to my manager because he canceled all of my touring dates got canceled. Like you talk about like in a day where you have a whole year's touring canceled. No income, no shows coming up. Album that I was supposed to record is not going to happen. They're not calling me back. I can't make contact with anyone. And I got in touch with one of the CEOs of the entertainment companies who would book me. Kind of like a Live Nations. And I just said, I want to make my own deal. I'm almost 18. I want to cut my own deal to continue touring and to continue playing. And he said to me, well, that's going to cost you. And I said, I know. I know how you guys play this game. I know. Okay, great.
Wow.
So do you want to meet? And he said yes. And he came in and he met me at that same casino. And we made a deal for me to keep touring. And that was the one and only time that I ever sold myself to make that deal and to continue touring. And it was shortly after that, not even 2 months after that, they found me. And my mom called Jaco at college and said, you're going to take a friend of yours. You guys, I can't go. You're going to have to go. You're going to have to go get her. You're going to have to go get her.
And he did?
Yes.
What did you do?
Yes. And when he showed up, he convinced my mom to go. My mom came. And I knew they were coming because the lady whose house I was renting, they called her. Mm. And she said, hey, I just want to give you, I don't know what's going on, but I just want to give you a heads up that, I think your mom knows where you are. And I don't know if you just need to know. That I don't want to be in your business, but you just need to know. So she came and I opened the door and she looked at me and she said, you don't have to tell me anything. Oh. I'm just glad that you're alive and I'm glad to see you. And I want you to come home. Please come home. That's it. And I said, I can't come home. I have a gig in Zimbabwe that I am contracted to play. You all just need to go back. Just leave me here. And she said, there's not a chance. And Jaco said, I will, Jaco, I will drag you to the car by your feet. If I need to take you, you are coming with us. And I said, no, I'm not. I have to leave here in a couple of hours and drive to Zimbabwe.
Which is a neighboring country.
Yep. Mm. And he said, well, then I'm taking you. And they had no notice. So the friend, they had to get him a ride back to Joburg because he had to go back to college. Jaco didn't even go back to campus. He drove me to Zimbabwe over the border, went to this event that I had to play at, played this event. And at this point, because I was out of the trafficking ring, my gigs after that weren't sex-riddled. It was I would go do a gig, I would get paid, and that was it. After that one moment of cutting this deal, I was out of the circle because the manager went, he was just gone. And even the CEO didn't even know where he was.
And the police didn't follow up?
Couldn't find him.
Oh.
Yeah, I did. I gave a police statement, could not find him. And so, but here's a beautiful memory that I have of Jaco. When he drove me to that gig, I played the gig and I sang and I got paid and it was a nice event. There were tennis courts. And I didn't know really what to say to him and he didn't know what to say to me. What do you say to your sister who's been gone for so long? What do you say? My mom was just thankful that I'm there and, is loving on me and she's just glad I'm there, And Jaco looked at me and he said, hey, you want to play some tennis? Because we both love and play tennis. And I said, Yeah, sure. And he walked me to them. He never asked me what happened, but he played tennis with me for 3 solid hours. Till like 4 in the morning. And he said, I just want to be here with you. We're 6 years apart. There's not much you have in common with a sibling that you're 6 years apart.
Your 17-year-old sister and you're like 23, 24.
Now, I don't want to know why you ran. Let's just play. Let me just be here with you. He drove us back to my real house, to my mom's home in Joburg. And then my mom said to me, you've always wanted to go to America. There's a position in Nashville that's open. I want to take you. You want to pursue songwriting and music, and you're so talented. Please let me take you. And it was Mom's attempt to get us out of South Africa, but it was also her Hail Mary. I want to rescue you. I want to get you away from this place.
That's the only thing she knew how to do, was just to take you away from it.
Yeah.
You know?
And she never asked. She said, I won't, because I didn't want to go there. We moved to Nashville in 2001, and I very quickly married a guy who was a good friend that I made, an American boy. I still feel the same way about him today as I felt back then. We were married for 5 years, and 5 years into our marriage, I signed another record deal in Nashville, and I was busy going with the record company through song selections and all of this stuff, and I heard 2 individuals having a conversation about the Man-Boy Love Association. And I thought they were talking about me, because I didn't understand what the NAMBLA was, right? And so they were talking about men having sex with kids, and you know how evil that is and everything, and why don't kids just speak up? And they were just talking. And I was listening to this conversation while I was trying to pay attention to what was going on with all these songs that we had to pick. And something like a light switch just flipped in me. I can't explain it. It was almost like everything had been building up in my body and I couldn't hold it anymore. And I started crying, standing there. And then the record company head said, well, are you okay? And I said, no, I need to go. I need to go. So I left the record company, cried all the way back home to who was now my ex-husband, but went home and got home, and I said, you have to call my mom. There's something that I have to tell y'all. And he said, no, you're going to tell me. And I was standing in the kitchen and I just kind of vomited. In my mind, what happened to me in South Africa. And basically told him that I had lied about, being a virgin when we were married, which I was not in the least. That I wasn't the person that he married, which I did. I completely fabricated an entire story for myself. Because why would I not? I was called by that name for so many years. It's easier to do that than to be transparent in who you are. And he looked at me and he took his wedding ring off and he handed it to me. And he said, I will not be married to a liar. You've lied our entire marriage. And he filed for divorce in weeks. That was the first time that I shared what happened. So there's truth in that statement of, oh, they're not going to believe you, or are you going to be in trouble, or because
Yes.
it takes a very specific person to be able to hold that kind of information and a story for you, to hold space for you. And God bless him, he just didn't have that, and it was just too much. So then my mom came over and she was like, well, what's going on now? And he's like, well, why don't you let her tell you? And she's like, you know what? Why don't you call her brothers? Because, they need to hear this because you're not going to believe what she did to me. And I sat.
What she did to me.
So I'm very musical, always have a lot of gear in studios. And so a bunch of Fender amps, and guitar sitting. And so I sat on a Fender amp and Yaku walked in and he sat on the couch and he's like, what's going on? Why are you guys coming from work? What's going on? And I just shared all of this stuff with me. And my mom literally, emotionally, and physically crumbled into a ball in front of me. And I've never seen my brother cry. Yaku sobbed. And I was like, why are they crying? Why? Don't cry for me. Why are you crying for me? I don't want you to have sympathy for me.
Because they were there.
Right.
Because they were there.
I didn't understand it.
And they didn't stop it. They didn't protect you.
But they would have, though.
I know, but why did they cry? Because they didn't protect you.
Right.
Because they couldn't bear it to know that you went through so much pain.
And it broke my brother.
Yeah.
It broke my mom.
Yeah.
My younger brother, who I was really close with, he just wanted to hug me. He's like, can I just sit next to you? And I was like, don't touch me. I don't want any. I want gone. I want to leave. I don't want the tears. I don't want the sympathy. I just want to leave. And that's when I attempted suicide. Because I couldn't sustain dealing with the weight of their emotion.
Yeah.
When I couldn't even deal with my own emotion.
Yeah.
Right?
And having to relive it. Right? I mean, you were running from it. You ran from it when you ran from your family. And then you ran from South Africa.
Right.
And then it caught up with you because you can't escape.
You cannot run from your past.
You can't.
You have to turn
run
and
from
face.
your pain.
Can't do it. It
You
doesn't
can't.
work.
No, it doesn't.
So the divorce happened. Praise God, I didn't die. Went into a psychiatric hospital for 2 weeks. They pumped
did
my
you do?
stomach, drank pills, drove in my beetle bug, took any pills that I could find that was prescription. My mom's prescriptions, ex-husband's prescriptions, just prescription. I had no prescriptions because I wasn't sick, but I just took prescriptions and dumped them in my lap and ate them like candy, and started feeling very delusional. And I called the record company who I was signed to, who's now my husband, Bill, by the way. He called me to check in on me because I left and disappeared and just never went back. And he thought I was drunk because I was slurring my words.
Wow.
And he said, where are you? And I was like, I don't know, driving Nashville. And he said, well, do you think you could maybe, if I send you somewhere, do you think maybe you can get checked out just so we can make sure that you're okay? And it was to the hospital, and the closest hospital was Centennial Hospital, and which is close to Vanderbilt. And he convinced me, stayed on the phone with me, and they involuntarily admitted me, pumped my stomach, and then I went into the psychiatric hospital.
Wasn't there a time when you were running through the traffic when Jaco?
Yes, I'll tell you about that. Yeah, that was my second suicide attempt.
What happened?
This was probably, to make my time right. This was a year and a half after the first attempt, right? I started trauma therapy in Nashville. If you signed in Nashville, Music Cares, the Grammy organization, Music Cares, will pay for your therapy. And there was a trauma therapist, Porter's Call in Franklin, that I started doing therapy with. And through Music Cares, they would pay for my therapy because it's so expensive. It's like $150 an hour or $200 an hour for trauma therapy. But when you first start walking through trauma therapy, it's very difficult to self-identify as a victim because you don't want to be seen as a victim. You want to be the strong individual. And so
you had to be to survive it.
Right. But when they start pulling on that thread that you are a victim, it's undoing to your soul.
Yes.
It's very undoing and it's very exposing, and you don't know how you should feel, and you're exhausted and you want to sleep all the time, after therapy. And I started dating Bill, and Bill said to me, because Bill's been a believer since he was 17, and I was raised in church, but my mind couldn't understand how can the God of the universe be here and all of this stuff happened to me. There's a disconnect. This cannot be right. Maybe God wasn't there for me. He was there for other people. I don't know.
Of course, when you go through all of that,
right.
Of course
now I
you
know it's different.
God.
Right. And so he came to me and he said, listen, a very good friend of mine called. He's a pastor in Franklin. And he invited us to come to church. And I laughed at him. I'm like, you're kidding, right? I'm not going to go to church. Do I look like a church person? I'm not a church person. I don't go to church. I know God's there, but eye in the sky. I don't go to church. I wear mini skirts and push-up bras, and I don't go to church, Don't ask me to go to church with you. And he's like, we're going to church. And I'm like, I'm not going to church. I've gone through a divorce. You've gone through a divorce. You're older than me. I'm not going to church. It's like, we're going to church. So I went to church in fishnet stockings and a mini skirt with my hair as big as to a Presbyterian church, mind you. Not even to an Episcopal or United Methodist. That at least would have been like, yay, celebrate you. No, it was like a Presbyterian church. And we walked in and the pastor met us and he said, hey, I'm Scott. And I'm a singer-songwriter too, but I'm the pastor here. I'm so glad you're here. And listen, we want you to sit up front so you can pay attention. And I was like, okay. And we walked to the front and a lady by the name of Jane Haynes, and I talk about her in my book, she came up to me and she said, you're not American, are you? Wow. And I said, no, I'm South African. She said, you know what, you look like a lot of fun. Why don't you come and sit next to me because I like to have fun? And I was like, okay, I'll sit next to you. But sitting in that church that day, I heard Scotty Smith, which is a very well-known pastor in Franklin, who has served the music community for many, many, many years, well-respected pastor. He started talking about the man named Jesus, who is the person of grace, who presents you with grace, who says, whatever you've been through, I've got the salve and the sap for your life. No matter what you've gone through, I will meet you as a friend. That there is a million ways to come to Jesus, but one way to the Father. And I didn't understand that. And I wanted it. I was like, this man sounds amazing. I would love to have a friend like that. I want to have a friend that looks at me and says, I don't want anything from you. I don't expect anything from you. You don't have to have sex with me. You don't even have to say anything if you don't want to. We can just sit here. And I'm still going to love you and like you. And I didn't like myself. I didn't even know how I liked eggs up until I was 28 years old, because I was so removed from the person, from my own body. Mm-hmm. And we left the church, and I felt all the guilt and the shame coming up in me, and that I'm never going to be able to get where that pastor was talking about. I'm never going to be able to meet that Jesus and have that friend in my life. We got to Bill's house. I got into a massive argument with him because when you go through high T trauma, it's very difficult to cry. And you have to expel a lot of energy or create these massive dramatic moments to be able to cry, right? And I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. So if I fought with him, then I could cry, right? So I picked a fight with him and I started fighting with him. And I took a walking stick that he had made when he was in high school, that he crafted, God bless him, it's still broken, and I smashed his windows in of his sports car. I smashed the whole thing, like a crazy girl, that has lost her mind. And because that's really where I was. And I tore my church dress, and I took off running into the streets. He lived on a busy road, hoping that a car would hit me, because I didn't want to live. I really just didn't want to live.
You were running right into the traffic.
Yep, and Bill tackled me. Lifted me up like you would lift up a child, and he carried me in my Victoria's Secrets back into the house. And he sat me in the foyer. He told the neighbors to stop looking, and he closed the door, and he knelt next to me, and he put his hand on my back, and I was sobbing, and he said, Lord, I don't know what else to do for her. Have you ever been in a situation like that, Lara, when you've had a person in your life where you're like, I don't know how to help this person? I pray, I give them resources, I send them to therapy, I pay for it, I give, but nothing's changing. And that's where I was. And Bill got up to make sure that the neighbors really were just not walking over calling the police. And and this is just how it happened for me, Lara. It's different for everybody. But I heard, Bill walked away, I audibly heard God call my name. And he just said, Ilonka, why will you not cry to me? Why will you not ask me to help you? You've tried the book The Secret. You've tried positive thinking. You've tried all this therapy.
Trauma therapy, all this stuff.
Sleep therapy, all of it. Why will you not turn to me? And I said, in arrogance, but also in extreme desperation, if you are the Jesus that pastor was talking about today, then come into this house. Come to me. And please come and help me. And don't send some mystical angel thing, because that's just going to scare me. Why I said that? I don't know why I said that, but just come help. You come. I felt a peace come over me. Bill came back, got me up. He moved me to the couch. And then he put a blanket over me because I was still just in underwear. And just trying to wrap his head around what had just happened. And I fell asleep. And he left me to sleep. And I slept for 18 hours. And I'm not someone that sleeps for 18 hours. But he left me because I think God gave him understanding of how exhausted I was from.
You'd been fighting since you were 12 years old.
Right.
Since that first rape.
Yes.
Yes.
Fighting
to stay alive, fighting to stay sane, fighting to stay whole, fighting everything.
Yep. And when I woke up from that, I had zero depression. Now, Lara, depression was like a second person that lived with me for 12 years. It was a thing with me. Like, it is really a spirit that goes with you. You feel the weight of it. It lives with you. It talks to you. It never leaves you. It's right there. It's like the invisible man behind the curtain. It's always there. And I couldn't shake it no matter what I did. But when I woke up after 18 hours, I was like, oh, wow. I felt the way I felt when I was 10. Wow. When the sun was shining, I could hear birds outside. I'm like, so then I walked outside to go and find Bill. And I found Bill. He was working on his car in the driveway. I found him, and he kind of stared at me like, what are you getting ready to do? You know?
He's like, there's nothing left in my sports car. What's she going to do now?
What are you going to do? You know? And I'm like, I'm so sorry about what happened last night, but something happened. I heard a voice. So I think I'm bipolar. I think because I had enough therapy to where you can self-diagnose yourself.
Of course.
I'm like, he's like, what do you mean a voice, Ilonka? It's like, do I need to like pray? I'm like,
yeah.
No, I think I heard God call my name. And then I asked him to help me. And Bill grew up Baptist. He's like, well, that sounds like a salvation prayer to me. And I'm like, what? You know, being Dutch Reformed, we're elect, you know, God elects you. You're not, you know.
Dutch Reformed Church is very different.
It's very different. It's not the salvation prayer. We don't do that. And I'm like, well, what is that? And he goes, well, that's when you surrender your life to Jesus. And I fell to my knees on the concrete pavement. And I pulled him down. And I said, can you pray that prayer? Because this is the first day in many years that I actually want to live. Well, I don't want to die. Well, I don't wake up with thoughts of dying. Can you pray this? He's like, well, if you did that, you don't have to do it again. I'm like, pray with me. He's like, Ilonka, you don't have to do that. I'm like, you don't understand. I woke up for more than 12 years wanting to die every day. Today, I don't want to die. Whatever happened in that room last night needs to happen again. Okay, you got to pray.
I don't want to let it go.
I made him pray with me every day for more than 6 months. Because I was clinging like, don't let go of me. Don't you dare let go of me. Don't you dare let go of me. And then I noticed that I saw trees. You know, Lara, I did not see trees for 12 years.
Why trees?
Creation, any creation. I didn't hear birds sing for 12 years. Anything that wasn't directly tied to me surviving like tunnel vision, I didn't see. I didn't see God's creation, didn't notice it, didn't recognize it, didn't hear birds sing. I heard 2 birds sing in rhythm. And I knew that I'd not heard birds because I'd missed it.
Yes.
I knew that I'd not seen trees because I'd missed it. I was in such disbelief that I walked to a 100-year oak tree and hugged it because I didn't think it was real. I thought it was crazy. And I told Bill, I'm like, is that real, that tree? And he said, yes. And I'm like, no, it's not. He goes, Ilonka, that's a tree. I'm like, I think I'm hallucinating. And I wasn't on drugs or anything. Touched it and I'm like, it's real. And I'm like, oh, something really did happen. Something really did happen. Now, I could not vocalize it to you then, when this happened, when I was in my 20s. Now I can tell you that God changed my mind. He rewired the neurological pathway of my brain to not have depression. He took that away from me. He removed that spirit from me. He removed the majority of my anxiety from me.
It's like a demon.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a demon that lives with you. But Lara, as a person who was set free that day, there was many things that still had to be changed. That would only come as I started walking out my faith with God, like liking myself. I still didn't like to look at myself in the mirror, right? I didn't want to know myself, right? First time that I sat with like 5 different ways that you make eggs to figure out what kind of eggs I like, And I'm almost 30 and I'm figuring out what kind of eggs I like. It seems bizarre, right? But it's almost like you go back to being the age that you were when you were 12 and then you emotionally grow.
Before everything changed.
Because your emotional growth stopped.
Yes.
When the rape happened. So you have to go back and then
everything
catch
stopped
up.
when the rape happened.
Stopped, right.
Yeah.
So and this is why when we talk about harsher punishments for predators, I'm a big advocate for harsher punishments because I'm like, you have to understand that if a child is raped at 7, their emotional growth stops. So if they start trauma therapy at 20, you need to realize that part of that person, even though they're a 20-year-old, you're going to have to go back to when they were 7 because their body will go back to when they were 7. And you're going to have to raise that person up to come alongside the adult now, right? And that's in trauma therapy what they do with you is they go back and they raise up that child to walk along the adult. And it took me 3 years from the time that Jesus saved me to where I could share my story the first time in a very controlled environment. Done with questions that was vetted from me and therapists, and it was Scotty Smith who interviewed me. And the very first time I shared my story, I had multiple people line up who would come and share their secrets, and I had no idea what to do with that, what to do with people's hardship. But I really realized that God sent me to the United States to become a missionary. That's why he allowed it for me to come here, so that I could be a missionary to teach others that there's hope and that there is freedom, and that there is freedom in such a way to where you can have ultimate forgiveness for the person who raped you, for the person. Laura, I have not 1 ounce of hate for that man. If he were to walk into this room today, I could look at him and say, what you did to me was very wrong because I was looking for a father. I wasn't looking for what you wanted to give me. But I do hope that you can make your life right with God because even God created you. And I have complete forgiveness for the monster that you were in my story. And I don't hate him.
Really?
No. How does that happen, Lara?
I don't know.
How can that happen, right?
Yeah, how can that happen?
Because we don't possess the gift of forgiveness. I can't give forgiveness to myself. I can't make myself forgive anybody. Forgiveness is between you and the Creator. And it was always a misconception. I thought it was between me and my ex-manager. I'm like, God showed me it's not. It is a vertical, it's not horizontal. It's a vertical transaction that happens between you and God. And he gives you the portion of the forgiveness that you need for that, and that flows through you. But it takes a long time to do it because I wasn't ready. I wanted to hate him. I wanted, him to be punished.
Yes.
And to every extent of the law, and I still think that he should be punished, and that's why I filed. Yes, and that's why I filed charges against him. I want him to be punished, but in my heart, I don't go to bed at night with unforgiveness and carry that weight with me. I don't want that weight because I have now tasted and I've seen and I've felt what true freedom feels like. There's nothing in your story, no event that has happened to me that I can go to my best friend, Jesus, and talk to him like he's a friend sitting next to me, having a cup of coffee with him and saying, I've got this thing in my life that is bugging me, that is a thorn in my side that I can't get rid of, and I know you can help me get rid of this. Because I refuse to be a victim. I will not go through life being a victim and teaching my kids to be victims.
No.
I wanted to have a restored marriage. I wanted to have normal sexual relations with my husband, which I do not cringe off. I do not have to turn the light off. I have a great marriage. I have great intimacy with my husband. We have 3 beautiful kids that God has blessed us with.
That's unbelievable.
And that's only because of the power of God.
That's the light that shines from you.
Yeah. It's not me, Lara. I was just willing to say, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to be so comfortable with what I know and be too afraid of the uncomfortable to step into the uncomfortable. Because people think that counseling and trauma therapy is going to kill you. It's not. If I can give you an image, it's like walking through a house that is on fire. Like every wall is on fire. Around you, the floor, everything's on fire. And you have to walk through that fire, but it never burns you. And you make it through. That's what trauma therapy is like. You walk through it and you make it. And you are a much better person, healthier, stronger, part of the 1 to 3% of people who are like us that can sit here and say, there's hope, there's healing. You don't have to be a victim of the rape. You don't have to be a stripper in a strip club. You don't have to sell your body. You can say no. I have done it. There's hope for you. There's freedom for you.
See, it's just unbelievable.
This is why we fight.
I know, but it's just breathtaking, your story and your strength and your beauty.
Oh,
You're so beautiful. But you know, it's not just that physical beauty, it's that beauty that shines from within you, that about this incredible person that you are.
Well, thank you, Lara. And you know, the concept of God in healing is not new, right? AA, higher power.
No,
they talk
but
about
underrated.
It. Right. But I can
I would say seriously underrated.
But I can tell you this much, though. It wasn't until the man and the person that is grace, that is Jesus Christ, came into my story that everything worked. Every trauma counseling therapy session everything just worked.
Yes, all these things you tried before that didn't work.
Yeah.
They don't work on their own.
Right. Like The Secret, the book. Is it a bad book? No. Do I agree with the book? Absolutely not. But is it actually a biblical principle to take your mind captive and to put your mind on positive things in the Bible? Yes, it is. There's actual scriptural truth to that, right? But God also says this. He says, 2 Corinthians 1:4, I've comforted you, Ilonka, and you, Lara, with what you have gone through, because you have a calling now to go forth and comfort someone else with what I comforted you from. We've got to pay it forward. My story is never for me just to hold on and to hoard and to keep.
No.
By sharing it, I get to glorify God, first of all. I get to inspire someone else to speak up and let God glorify their story so that they can do the same thing as what I'm doing, because they matter to Him.
And you're working with Jaco to combat trafficking.
Absolutely. Fiercely. Yes. I'm the Director of Advocacy for JVM.
Which is Jaco Boyne's Ministries.
Jaco Boyne's Ministries, yes. And I am a staff writer for him. So I write op-eds, editorials for different things going on in the country. And everything touches on child protective rights and how to give parents their rights back and protect kids and keep pornography out of the reach of kids. I've written two...
A big thing
very, very big
today
thing.
With technology and phones and all that.
I've written 2 amicus briefs, both the Supreme Court. The first one was heard, arguments were heard in the Free Speech Coalition case versus Paxton, AG Paxton of Texas, where the state of Texas said we have to have age verification. We have to have age verification for hardcore porn sites. Yes. And Free Speech Coalition have filed lawsuits all across the nation saying, no, we don't, because minors should have the right to view pornography.
These people are just...
evil.
They're evil. They really are unspeakable. And they have got to... I can't believe they can get away with saying they're free speech advocates.
No, they're not.
They're not at all.
How is expressing yourself sexually a freedom of speech?
Oh, it's nonsense.
It is nonsense. You want to express yourself as an adult man watching hardcore pornography of people almost killing each other online, and you think that a 11-year
raping children.
Yeah, 11-year-old should have access to that?
No.
But you're afraid to upload your ID? Well, you know what? Then you shouldn't do stuff in secret.
That's right.
Like that.
So
we're fighting this case. We went to D.C. I was at the Supreme Court for the hearing. We did it. We filed another amicus in a different case. It's not age verification, but it is to not take parental rights away for kids who wanted to, who are subject to LGBTQ curriculum in schools. So we're fighting that case because the state of Maryland did take the parental rights away. And so we're fighting that case, Supreme Court, and that's being heard on April 22nd. So I'm writing, speaking, just trying to raise awareness, writing curriculum to educate parents.
And still singing.
Yeah, love to sing. Yes, did a project with Yaku, my brother, made him sing with me on a project.
Forced him to.
To show what a victim goes through, just from a different medium, what a victim goes through. And I still love to sing. And so we did it through a song. It's called Angel, and it is the perspective of a victim who was just rescued. And she's having a conversation with her rescuer who is dying. And she's saying, I see you as an angel. Can I pick your halo up off the ground? And he's saying, I'm not an angel. I'm just someone, who helped you. And she has questions about God, and she petitions him to go and talk to God on her behalf. And it's a beautiful song.
It's, you look beautiful.
Well, thank you.
But it's a very different look for you. You've got all the writing all over your arms.
Yes, and as you know, I don't have any tattoos. No tattoos.
I know, when I saw that, I was like, Ilonka, I didn't know you had tattoos. and then, of course, when you start in the video to wash it off, I was like, oh, yeah, now, of course, that makes sense.
Yes, which it's to symbolize what Jesus did in my life when he washes us, right? Because he really does all of those negative words that we think about ourselves, like we are torn, we're broken, we are damaged goods, we're unworthy, we're unloved. He changes all of that into saying, you feel unloved, but I say I've loved you before you were born. You feel dirty, but I say that I washed you clean. You feel that you don't have value, but I send my son to stand in your place. You say that no one listens, but I have an intercessor for you that prays for you daily, even when you don't pray. God has a positive counter to every negative thing that we can think, about ourselves. And God really does. He restores your mind, through that. And it is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's a beautiful thing,
So when you see all the news about PDiddy and Epstein and all of that, what do you think?
Well, I see men who made a choice at some point in their career to be corrupt. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out that PDiddy was a victim first, and then he decided that he was going to, step into that recruiting role, which we know he did. And he became, someone who has gained authority and power. But make no mistake, Lara, he is pretty low in this whole pyramid of trafficking.
Why do you say that?
Because it goes very far up. Entertainment, the entertainment industry it's a means to an end. The entertainment industry is only there to satisfy a financial or a deal need, always. So if they want to, let's say you have a sitting official in a city, or a senator, or a representative of the House, or someone in a big financial organization who is part of this corrupt trafficking system, and who has a need to have sex with kids, a very sick need, they will cut backdoor deals to say, okay, I'm going to allow you this funding on this lobbyist bill, or this whatever you want, or I want mineral rights in this country, but you need to send one of your prize entertainers to come and do a private concert for me. Now, that entertainer might not be the one having sex with whoever this person is, but they cut deals. So entertainment is always a means to an end. It's used. The entertainment industry is always used to facilitate deals. And so PDiddy is low. He is like one of the, what I like to call them, regional managers, of the entertainment. And he's already been replaced, probably.
Wow.
So the question is, why did he lose his protection? He lost his protection for a reason, right? I don't know what the answer to that is. Same as with Jeffrey Epstein. He lost his protection, right?
That's a very good way to put it.
And we know that Epstein was an informant, right? And we know there's allegations that Sean Combs was also an informant, right? So they lost their federal protection for some kind of reason, and they were ousted. And now that happened to Epstein, and now PDiddy, is in prison, or he's waiting for his hearing.
So one of the things that really bothers people about the whole Epstein PDiddy thing is that you have these people, you also have Ghislaine Maxwell, who trafficked all of these people, but yet you don't see the victims. Why do you think that is?
Multiple reasons. They could have active threats on their lives. Some of them have come forward in lawsuits anonymously to where their names are being kept. I mean, there's hundreds of people on the PDiddy list, victims, hundreds of them, that will probably come out in the lawsuit. But I mean, you want to protect victims' names. You know, some have come out publicly, but the scrutiny, Lara, because you have half of the people are going to say, "I'm so sorry this happened to you." The other half of the people are going to say, "Well, you deserved this, or you wanted this, or so." The scrutiny is unbelievable.
Or you're lying.
Or you're lying. I mean, how could you? Yes, there's always two sides to this thing, and you have very brave women, like Miss Carter, that has come out and boldly speaking up about her story, and there's scrutiny for her, and so you're like, well, what's going to happen?
Yes,
there's threat to her
course.
life. There's been threats to her life. You know, are they going to hurt her? Is truth going to prevail? Is she going to stand? And so I think for the majority of victims, they don't want to be known. And I get that. I wouldn't have wanted, I never picked to be a speaker of this. God picked me to be a missionary to go forth and speak about stuff like this. I did file charges against the man, my manager. My husband pretended to be a talent buyer, you know, to buy a girl and got the information. Spent a lot of time investigating it and got it, and we went back to South Africa and we filed charges. And I did that because I can't stand in front of the youth, kids in high school, or stand in front of women and say, I need you to speak up if something is happening in your home, if I wasn't willing to speak up, right? So I wanted to portray courage, that if I can do it, you can do it. And even though that's still an open case, because I don't have the resources to fight it, I still went and filed charges.
It's the principle that
that
you did what you could.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So I try to raise as much awareness, and our beautiful scars, and we're wearing the beautiful shirts.
Yes, the shirt that you gave me, which is by the South African designer, right?
Yes, Carla Caballero. We collaborated on the silk
and JBM,
scarf.
that's your brother.
Yes, we collaborated on the silk scarf to give moms and women a visceral textile fabric that they could either wear or tie to their handbag to say, I fight trafficking. And I am fighting trafficking for my kids, or I'm fighting it for my nieces or for my grandkids. And this is going to be a symbol that we have 4 designs that we roll out each year.
Wow.
And that you can wear to say, as a reminder, like, I'm always going to keep my kids safe. I'm going to be informed. I'm going to stay on top of the technology battle that we're having, you know, with our kids' iPads and iPhones, and with how kids are being trafficked and reached through that, and how they're being manipulated through that and emotionally abused through it. This is going to be a reminder for me to never stop fighting for my kids and for the kids of the world and the kids of America to fight. And so Carla is a very good friend of mine.
And she's also South African.
She's also South African from Cape Town.
I can't wait to meet her.
You will. Her sister-in-law was murdered in the drug trafficking trade in Australia. And her name is Renee, beautiful soul. And this is why this is called the Renee Freedom Scarf.
This is amazing.
It's not just about my story.
Yeah.
It's about your story, her story, and so many people who have endured the abuse that we have gone through and have experienced high-T trauma. And we don't want our kids to have this. You want to protect your kids. I want to protect my kids.
Oof. And we didn't talk about this before, but in case people want to buy these or find these, how can they?
Yes, we have the link for them, and it's available on helpjbm.org.
So we can put that on we can put that at the end of the show and on the website, so people, if they want to find them.
And also on Carla Caballero's, the Caballero collection as well, but we do have the link for it.
You know, there was so much I wanted to talk to you about, but I honestly feel like you have to come back, because it's so big.
Yeah.
You know, you're I feel like I just everything, I mean, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. It's
I'm
just
sorry, it's a lot.
No, don't be sorry. I'm sure people listening to this will feel the same way. You know that all of this happens. You read all the headlines about Diddy, and and all of that. But
It's all true though, Lara. Like what people are coming out with about the Diddy parties,
yeah,
it's not a lie. It really happens like that. And the more fame there is to it, the more elite it is, and the wider it goes, and the more reckless they get with this kind of stuff that they're doing.
yes,
Yeah.
and I just it's incredible how what you have overcome and what you're doing now to reach so many people. And your brother is one of the most impressive people I know.
Yeah,
I love him like a brother too.
Jaco's an amazing
From the moment
person.
I met him,
and
he does so much in the world of counter trafficking. And this is something that I also feel called to by God, who's led me all my life, even when I was too stupid to know it.
I understand that.
When I know you saw the episode we did with Pastor Leon Benjamin,
yes.
and he was sitting there in that chair, and he was talking about seeing a portal open up, and he said God wants a request from you. He wants to grant this request from you. And when he said it, I thought, what am I going to ask for? Because my life hasn't been easy, but I've been given so much in my life, so much love and so much, so many things, beautiful children, all those things. And I thought, what am I going to ask for? What am I going to ask for? And then when he looked at me for the answer, I just said, no more children.
Yeah.
No more. This has to stop.
Yeah.
What happened to you has to stop. Can't have the Man-Boy Love Association of America. It can't exist. You can't allow that under the guise of freedom of speech. You have to stand for something in your life. And I very much grew up of this mindset that my children are part of. Be tolerant towards people, don't judge people. Accept everybody, live and let live. And you're seduced into this because if you have a kind heart, and if you believe in respecting people and treating, and that, like I do, born to see all people as equal.
Yeah.
All people are equal for me.
Right.
And then you realize you've been seduced.
Yes.
Because you are supposed to stand for something.
It's a ruse, I know.
You are, and it's
You've got
not
to stand
okay.
on something, Lara. You have to.
And all people sure are equal, but some things are not okay.
No.
And you have to stand against them.
And we all have a decision to make. And unfortunately, some of us make horrible decisions. Does that mean that God doesn't love that person? No. God hates the decision you're making. He loves you because he created you. But the decision that you're making is wrong. And we, who have a good moral compass to this fight, cannot just say, oh, you're a broken person and we're just going to allow this. No, we're not.
No.
You need help. You need help and healing. We want that for you. And by the way, we provide all of these resources at JBM. If you go to our website,
yes,
we provide all of the resources for you. If you are someone who's addicted to pornography, I'm very sorry that you're addicted to pornography. I'm not going to judge you for that, but you need help. It needs to stop and you need help. If you're someone actively abusing a child, I'm not going to judge you for that, but it's going to stop. You have to stop. You got to get help. You have to. That child deserves a different life. You cannot continue doing that.
No. And we can't continue this cycle of the abused becomes the abuser. We can't.
Yeah, we can't make it normal.
No, we can't make that normal and be like, oh, well, he's like you said, Diddy is probably abused. Okay, he's probably abused, but what are we doing to break that cycle?
Yes, we can't just say because you've been abused, now you can do this. No. Okay, I have compassion for if you went through something, but at some point you made a decision to corrupt yourself. And when you made that decision, you became part of the problem. And now because you're part of the problem, we're going to have to fight against you. That is what Senator Ted Cruz is doing in Texas, the whole Take It Down Act, right? Take this junk down. Take it down. We don't want our kids to see pornography, right? Which is the same thing that we're doing at the Supreme Court. Freedom of Speech Coalition fighting against A.G. Paxson saying we don't want age verification. We want free porn for everybody in Texas. Senator Cruz says, take it down. We want it down across the nation.
And there's no such thing as free.
No.
Someone's paying for that, and you're paying for it.
Absolutely. And money, actually, the currency of money doesn't even compare to the emotional damage it does to an individual. The cost of what you go through emotionally far outweighs any monetary value.
Or the currency of sex.
Or the currency of sex.
Especially when it comes to children.
Yes, we just cannot stand for this. And I will not.
No, we can't stand for it. And we've become a society that says, oh, well, you know, I mean, kids are trafficked, isn't it terrible? And then we move on.
Right.
And we don't feel any responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people don't know what to do, and that's fine. But it begins with knowing who you are.
Right.
And standing for something.
Right. And with your own story. It's like, what have you gone through in your life? Everybody has things in their life. Everyone has a story. Even if you can't relate to trafficking, you've gone through something in your life where you've needed help.
Yes, everybody needs help.
Everybody needs help. And even just on that simple principle, you can relate that someone else might need help in a different situation than you, but they need help, right? And make no mistake, the enemy is coming after our children.
Oh, without a doubt.
Satan is coming after our children very, very fierce and fast.
From every direction.
And we have no choice as parents to say, we are going to protect our kids. You cannot sit on the sidelines anymore. Because remember, Lucifer was jealous of God. He was jealous of God and he wanted to be God. And God said, you cannot be that. You are condemned to earth. He hates God with a passion. He hates anything that God ever created that is beautiful. And he knows that the only sin that evokes shame in the human body is sex. Through rape, incest, molestation, gang rape, all of that. It invokes shame. And if you have shame in your life, you cast your eyes down. You cannot lift them up to God. And that is what we have to break and give people hope and healing and freedom for and protect our children from. Because we don't want them to feel this.
No, we don't want them to feel this.
And
you are truly such a powerful symbol of what it means to walk in the light of God and to overcome and to have joy. You know, that's one of the things I love about you.
Well, thank you.
You do have such joy still.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I mean, you're happy.
Yeah, very happy. Yeah. Goofy,
which is
happy.
amazing.
Yeah.
You see these terrible things and you think that there can never be light after that amount of darkness, but it's not true.
Oh, but Jesus, you know, God's amazing. And Lara, look how strong you are. The fact that you can sit here and have a conversation this long with me about this topic shows me that God has anointed you with a heart, you know, to hold stories. And we know what an amazing journalist you are. And how you investigate stories, but for you to hold such devastation, even going through your own story, many people would want to run from that, you know. So thank you for listening and for giving people a chance to hear. I want to come back.
We're definitely going to have you back, and we need to have your brother too.
Yes, absolutely. We'll
thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for being willing to go rogue with Lara Logan and Ilonka Deaton. We'll leave details on the website because I'm sure that there will be a lot of people curious to know more. And as always, you can go to laralogan.com, like, subscribe, do whatever all that stuff is. And thank you so much.
Ilonka, would you bless us with a prayer? I mean, this is incredible testimony.
Yeah, sure.
Jesus' freedom, just a prayer, over what you shared. And just because you're a story of redemption and finding freedom, and also you're exposing, you know, as it says in Luke 8:17, that God is revealing all the hidden things, and he's using you to do that, and Lara. So would you lead us in prayer?
Father God, Lord, first of all, thank you that you're so faithful, Lord, to redeem stories, to heal the broken, to always be a light in the darkness and a voice in the chaos and the noise. Lord, I first of all just want to pray for Lara's heart, Lord. This is heavy stuff, Lord, but you are in the tough stuff, God. And Father, I pray that you would make her heart calm, that you would give her peace, Lord, that you would give her wisdom and knowledge, Lord, and how to protect her own children, Lord. How to walk the story of trafficking out, Lord, and show her where you want her to speak and how you want her to speak and when you want her to speak, Father, about this. Father, I also just want to pray blessing, Lord, over this podcast, Lord. And Father, I just call forth, Lord, a favor to amend this favor for this podcast, Lord. Father, that you would bring the masses to hear, to be restored, and to be redeemed, Lord. Father, I pray that you would bless Lara's marriage, Lord, that you would bless her crew, Lord, that you would allow her to go forth, Lord, be a voice, Lord, for the voiceless, to be a protector, Lord, to expose what you want her to expose, Lord. Give her fresh eyes and fresh ears as she's doing her investigative work, Lord, to see things that no man can see, Father. Holy Spirit, work through her. And we thank you for our time and thank you for this blessed time, Lord. And I, honestly, Jesus, bless them. Bless them with everything you've got. Amen.
In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.